There are many examples of public-private partnerships, but a CBS 4 investigation found millions of dollars in private donations to the office of then-Governor John Hickenlooper, with the public basically kept in the dark. Our political specialist Sean Boyd on that story at the Capitol. So, Sean, who are the donors?
And Jim, it was private corporations and foundations. It's been going on for years, under the radar and off the books. But former Governor John Hickenlooper admits he took the public-private model to a new level, funding programs and even positions in his administration with private dollars and no public oversight. Just days after a deadly explosion in Firestone was tied to a leaking underground pipeline, Anadarko Oil and Gas, the company that owned the line, wrote a $25,000 check to the office of then-Governor John Hickenlooper, one of several donations Anadarko would make to the office, giving more than $330,000 over 4 years, money for which there is little accounting.
We tried to be as transparent as we could be. We did press releases.
The former governor and Anadarko say the donations were for a variety of initiatives. Hickenlooper provided flyers for some of them, showing Anadarko is one of many sponsors. But the only other public accounting of the donations is on a little-known website called the Transparency Online Project, if you know where to look. The Anadarko donation under a tab titled Combining Special Revenue, along with donations from other private companies and foundations, in the millions of dollars over the course of Hickenlooper's time in office.
What kind of role did you play in soliciting contributions?
I would sometimes speak to the Chamber of Commerce, or I would speak to the Colorado Association of Nonprofits.
But you never approached companies or private foundations directly and said, hey, I could use some help with this one.
I can't think of anything offhand.
Hickenlooper says the donations were handled by the governor's Community Partnerships program and provided annual reports that detail various public-private partnerships. But in most cases, the private donors aren't listed. And we could find no public database for how donations were spent. According to former staff, there was also no written policy to avoid conflicts of interest and no formal vetting process. Safeway gave $10,000 the year the governor signed a law allowing full-strength alcohol in grocery stores. And some foundations tell us they paid for policy positions in the governor's office that aligned with their agenda. There were also anonymous donations.
We didn't blackball any industries. We tried to look at this as a frame of reference that a good company that wanted to make the state better, that they should have the opportunity. That was a good thing that they should have. If there was even a sniff of politics in it, we would walk away.
Big dollar presents like that are the exact kind of things that ethics laws exist to prohibit and to regulate.
Frank Lamonti, director of the Breckner Center for the Freedom of Information, says he's never heard of direct donations to a governor's office without oversight, calling it an end run around campaign finance laws that, unlike the donations, come with limits and public disclosure.
Even if it's well-intentioned and there's no influence buying going on, it just raises all sorts of red flags that it could influence the direction of policy. It could influence what legislation is prioritized. It could give, at least if not influence, it could give preferred access.
These are funds that the Joint Budget Committee has no discretion or appropriation authority over.
Senator Dominic Moreno is vice chair of the committee that writes the budget.
We have received a number of budget requests that seek to continue some of these positions that were originally seeded with private dollars. Ultimately, it's the governor's office that's going to have to explain to voters what they use those funds for, and they're going to be held accountable to the voters.
Hickenlooper defends the donations.
I look at it as a way to try and make our community better, and especially in times when you're short funds.
But he admits, in hindsight, there should have been more disclosure and oversight.
You have appearances that aren't necessarily justified in reality, but people see it and it gets presented in such a way that that's what they come away with.
Now, I found private donations to the governor's office dating back 20 years, but Hickenlooper had the most by far. The practice continues under Governor Polis. His office tells me he has 5 privately funded positions, including an advisor who works with immigrants and refugees. That position funded by a donor who funneled the money, $135,000, through the Silicon Valley Foundation to remain anonymous. Live at the Capitol, Sean Boyd covering Colorado First.
Sean, thank you.